The snowstorm was supposed to be harmless, just another cold night in a quiet town. But for 8-year-old Lily, everything changed when she stepped outside and found 2 tiny puppies shivering on her porch, their fur covered in ice, their cries barely audible. She didn't hesitate. She didn't think twice. She scooped them into her arms and brought them inside, whispering, "Don't worry, I'll save you, I promise." But what she didn't know was that these weren't ordinary puppies, and by sunrise, dozens of police officers surrounded her house, weapons drawn, demanding she step outside immediately. What these puppies truly were stunned everyone. Stay with us, because this story will leave you shocked. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The blizzard came without warning, thick sheets of snow crashing down from the sky as if the whole world were being erased. The wind howled against the wooden cabins on the edge of the forest, rattling doors and windows like a warning no one could ignore. Most families stayed inside, bundled near fireplaces, praying the storm would pass. But one little girl in a bright red coat wandered through the snowy quiet, her boots sinking deep with every step. Lily was only 7, small and gentle, with golden braids that peeked from beneath her knitted hat. She wasn't supposed to be outside. Her mother had told her 100 times that storms like this were dangerous, but Lily had always felt drawn to the forest. She loved its peaceful silence. Even now, when the cold bit at her cheeks and numbed her fingers, she carried a tiny lantern, its weak glow fighting against the swirling white around her. As she reached the old abandoned cabin near the tree line, she paused. Something felt strange today, heavier than the storm, heavier than the cold. A faint whimper brushed her ears, so soft she almost convinced herself it was the wind. But then she heard it again. A cry, small, fragile, scared. Her breath caught in her throat. Lily stepped closer to the cabin, squinting against the blowing snow. The sound came again, louder this time, a desperate, trembling whine. She knew it wasn't a human voice. It was something else, something alive, and it was suffering. She hurried toward the porch, her lantern swinging wildly. Her boots slipped on the icy steps, but she caught herself, her heart pounding. As she lifted the lantern toward a wooden bench, her eyes widened. Her breath froze in her lungs. 2 tiny puppies sat pressed against each other, their small bodies shivering violently. They were German shepherd pups, barely old enough to stand. Snow covered their fur like frost, their ears drooping under the weight of ice. Their noses ran with freezing droplets, and their eyes, dark, glossy, pleading, lifted toward Lily the moment she appeared. She gasped, stumbling forward until she was kneeling in front of them. "Oh no! Oh no!" she whispered, her voice breaking. The puppies didn't bark. They didn't move. They just stared at her with trembling fear, as if silently begging her for warmth. Tears filled Lily's eyes. "You're freezing," she cried, her small hands flying to her mouth in shock. "Someone left you here?" The thought crushed her. Who could abandon them in a storm like this? Without thinking, she shrugged off her red coat and wrapped it around both puppies, lifting them gently into her arms. They were so cold she could feel the chill through the fabric. "I'll save you," she whispered, pressing her face to their icy fur. "I promise. I won't leave you." The wind roared louder, but Lily didn't look back at the cabin. She ran, through the storm, through the biting cold, protecting the tiny lives cradled against her chest. What she didn't know was that this simple act of kindness would set off a chain of events that would shake the entire town. And by morning, police sirens would be screaming outside her house. The storm only grew fiercer as Lily ran, her small boots slipping on the frozen path leading back to her house. Snowflakes slapped against her cheeks, melting instantly from the heat of her frantic breaths. But she didn't stop, not even for a moment. The two freezing puppies nestled inside her red coat whimpered softly, their tiny bodies trembling against her chest. That sound alone pushed Lily forward with a determination far stronger than her size suggested. "Just a little more," she whispered, tightening her arms around them. "I'm going to get you warm. I promise." Her house finally came into view, a small wooden home with smoke curling weakly from the chimney. Warm light glowed behind frosted windows. Relief washed over Lily, and she hurried up the front steps, careful not to jostle the fragile puppies. She paused at the door, listening for her mother's footsteps. Nothing. Good. She couldn't explain this. Not yet. Adults never understood things the way kids did. Quietly, she turned the doorknob and slipped inside. Warm air hit her instantly, and the puppies stirred, letting out weak, hopeful whines. Lily shut the door behind her and tiptoed across the living room. The fireplace crackled softly, painting the walls with flickering orange light. Her mother was in the kitchen, humming as she prepared dinner, unaware of the rescue mission happening just a few steps away. Lily darted toward her bedroom, moving as silently as her trembling legs allowed. The puppies shifted again, their frozen paws twitching beneath her coat. "It's okay," she whispered. We're almost safe." Inside her room, she gently placed them on her bed, unwrapping the coat with careful hands. The puppies curled together immediately, shivering violently. Their fur was soaked with melting snow, their noses pink from the cold. They looked exhausted, too exhausted for their age. Lily rushed to grab towels from her dresser, patting them dry as carefully as if they were made of glass. The puppies lifted their heads slightly, their eyes following her every movement. She smiled softly. "You're so brave," she murmured. "Both of you." After drying them, she fetched her thickest blanket and wrapped it around the pair, tucking the edges beneath them like a mother tucking in her babies. One of the puppies let out a small sigh, a tiny sound, yet filled with relief. The moment touched Lily's heart so deeply that tears welled again. She knelt beside the bed, gently stroking their heads. "No one should leave babies out in the snow," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I won't let anything bad happen to you." As warmth slowly returned to their bodies, the puppies inched closer to her, pressing their tiny faces into her palms. Their trust came instantly without hesitation, something pure and instinctive. Lily felt it too, a connection forming stronger than anything she had ever felt before. Outside, the blizzard raged on. Inside, for the first time that night, the puppies felt safe, but their safety came with a secret Lily couldn't yet imagine. The house had finally grown quiet. The storm still pounded against the windows, but inside Lily's room, everything felt warm and still. The puppies lay bundled beneath the thick blanket, their breathing steadier now, their shivers slowly fading. Lily sat beside them, legs folded beneath her, watching with gentle eyes as they drifted in and out of exhausted sleep. She reached out, stroking the soft fur behind their ears. "You must be so tired," she whispered. "But you're safe now. I promise." One of the puppies let out a soft whine and shifted, the blanket sliding slightly off its neck. That was when Lily noticed something she hadn't seen before, a thin strip of black material peeking out from beneath its fur. A collar, her eyebrows knitted together. The pups were far too young for collars, especially ones this tight. Curious but gentle, she lifted the puppy slightly and slid the blanket aside. The collar was worn, scratched, and far too heavy for such a small dog. A strange metallic tag hung from it, but not like any tag Lily had ever seen. It wasn't a name tag. It wasn't even a number tag. It was a symbol. A sharp, angular shape engraved into the metal. A shape that looked almost like a lightning bolt crossed with a claw mark. The lines were deep, deliberate, carved with something far stronger than a simple tool. Lily touched it lightly, feeling the cold metal sting her fingertips. "What is this?" she whispered. Her heart thumped uneasily. She gently checked the second puppy. It had the same collar, the same strange symbol, the same uncomfortable tightness around the neck, as if someone had put them on roughly, and with purpose. "These aren't normal collars," Lily murmured. The puppies reacted instantly when she moved the tags. Their eyes shot open. Both lifted their heads at the exact same moment, ears perking toward the door. Their small bodies stiffened, alert. It was like a switch had been flipped. One moment they were trembling babies, the next they were watching something Lily couldn't see. A faint sound echoed from outside. The wind? A branch? Lily couldn't tell, but the puppies could. Their synchronized reaction sent a chill down her spine that had nothing to do with the storm. She clutched the strange metal tag again, more firmly this time. "Who did you belong to?" she whispered. The question floated unanswered into the room, but when lightning flashed outside the window, illuminating the symbol for a split second, Lily felt a sudden shiver crawl across her skin. This wasn't a normal tag. This wasn't a normal marking. And whatever it meant, it was the first warning that the puppies she had saved were connected to something far bigger and far more dangerous than she could ever imagine. Night settled heavily over the house, wrapping everything in a blanket of storm-born silence. Lily's bedroom glowed softly from her small night lamp, casting warm circles of light across the wooden floor. She had changed into her pajamas and brushed the snow from her hair, but she hadn't taken her eyes off the puppies, not for a single moment. They were no longer shivering. Their fur had dried, their tiny paws tucked safely beneath them. But they still weren't acting like normal puppies. Not even close. Every few minutes, one of them would lift its head sharply, ears pricking toward the window as if listening for something outside. The other would follow immediately, mirroring the movement with eerie precision. Their bodies stiffened in the same instant, eyes narrowing, breaths slowing. Not scared, but focused. It was the kind of behavior Lily had only ever seen on TV when trained police dogs detected danger. But these were babies. Were they even old enough to learn anything? Lily crawled closer. "What's wrong?" she whispered. Both puppies tore their gaze away from the window at the same time and looked at her. It wasn't a confused look. It wasn't even frightened. It was a look that said they understood something she didn't. Something important. She swallowed. Her room felt strangely smaller now, heavier. A loud crack of thunder boomed outside. The house trembled slightly. Lily jumped, but the puppies didn't. Instead, they shifted into a position she didn't recognize. Front paws planted, bodies stretched low, ears pinned forward. Their eyes locked on the door as if expecting someone, or something, to walk through it. Lily's heart fluttered. "It's just a storm," she whispered. But deep down she wasn't so sure anymore. Moments later, the wind rattled the window frame, followed by a faint crunching sound, like footsteps in the snow. Lily froze. The puppies responded instantly, growling low, their tiny throats vibrating with a seriousness far beyond their age. "No, no," Lily whispered, backing up slightly. "There's no one out there." The puppies didn't believe that. She could feel it. The growls stopped suddenly, replaced by total stillness, the kind of stillness that made the air feel tight. Then, as quickly as it had started, the tension faded from their bodies. They curled back under the blanket, but their eyes stayed open, watching, waiting, guarding her. Lily sat up in bed, hugging her knees, trying to convince herself nothing was wrong. But the storm outside suddenly felt like the least frightening thing that night. The puppies weren't reacting to weather. They were reacting to someone, or something, out there in the dark, and whatever it wasn't going away. The storm eased slightly near midnight, but the silence it left behind felt even heavier. The wind no longer howled. The world outside had gone unnervingly still, as if holding its breath. Lily had finally curled under her blanket, though she wasn't fully asleep. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the strange collars, the puppy's synchronized behavior, and the growls that didn't sound like anything a normal puppy should make. She turned over, glancing toward them. Both puppies sat upright now, completely alert. Their ears twitched. Their eyes tracked the window. Lily's breath hitched. Not again. A faint beam of light cut across the curtains, a moving light, sweeping slowly from left to right. Lily's skin prickled. That wasn't lightning, and it wasn't the headlights of a passing car. This was steady, deliberate, searching. The puppies growled in low unison, stepping out from under the blanket. Their tiny paws touched the floor without a sound. They moved toward the window, their bodies tense, tails stiff, heads lowered in a way that didn't belong to creatures their age. Lily pushed herself upright, her heart thumping painfully. "Who's out there?" she whispered. She stood and tiptoed toward the curtains, her hands shaking. She peeked through the smallest opening. Her blood turned to ice. A figure walked slowly through the snow. Dark coat, hood pulled low, carrying a flashlight that scanned the ground like he was following a trail. His boots left deep prints in the snow, heading straight toward her house. Two more figures lingered near the tree line behind him, silhouettes barely visible in the dim light. Lily's breath caught so sharply she nearly choked on it. The man's flashlight beam moved again, sweeping dangerously close to her window. She jerked back, letting the curtain fall into place. Her hands trembled violently. No, no, no. The puppies pressed against her legs, growling louder now, their tiny bodies quivering, not with fear, but with readiness, protectiveness. Lily knelt down beside them. "Who are they?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Another beam of light flashed outside, closer than before. Boots crunched in the snow, nearing her porch steps. Lily clapped a hand over her mouth to stop a scream from escaping her throat. The puppies stepped in front of her, positioning themselves like miniature guards facing the door. The doorknob rattled. Lily froze. Someone was testing it. The shadow outside shifted, leaning forward as if inspecting the house. The puppies growled so deeply the sound didn't seem possible from their small bodies. Whoever was outside wasn't lost. They were searching, and they had found the house where the puppies were hiding. Lily barely slept for the rest of the night. Every creak of the house, every shift of the wind felt like footsteps outside. She sat on her bed with the puppies curled tight against her, their growls fading only when exhaustion finally overtook them. By the time the storm eased and the first hint of dawn touched the sky, Lily's eyes were heavy and red, from fear. But morning didn't bring safety. It brought sirens. Lily jolted upright when the first loud wail echoed through the neighborhood. The puppies snapped awake instantly, ears perked, bodies tense. They scrambled to the window, tiny claws clicking softly against the wooden floor. Lily followed, her heart slamming against her ribs. Blue and red lights flashed through the thinning curtain of snow outside, bright, urgent, unmistakable. Police cars, not one, not two, three. They pulled up directly in front of Lily's house, tires crunching over the frozen driveway. Officers stepped out quickly, their breath fogging in the cold air. They weren't calm. They weren't relaxed. They moved with purpose, fast, serious, scanning the area like they were expecting a threat. Lily's stomach twisted. "Why are they here?" she whispered, barely able to breathe. The puppies pressed their noses against the glass, whining anxiously. They weren't excited, they weren't curious, they were nervous, like they knew this moment was coming. One of the officers, a tall woman with a stern expression, spoke urgently into her radio. Another officer pointed toward the house, nodding sharply. The third walked toward the front door, hand hovering near his holster. Lily's panic surged. "No, no. They can't take you," she whispered to the puppies, pulling them close. "I didn't do anything wrong." A loud knock shook the door. "Police! Open up!" Lily staggered backward, clutching the puppies protectively. Should she answer? Should she hide? Her mind raced, but her feet stayed frozen to the floor. Another knock, harder this time. "Ma'am, we need you to open the door immediately." Ma'am. They thought she was a grown-up. They didn't know a little girl was inside. She swallowed hard and slowly stepped toward the door, the puppies trotting faithfully beside her. Her small hands trembled as she reached the doorknob. She couldn't hide forever. And if she didn't open the door, the pounding would wake her mother. With a tiny breath, she pulled the door open just a crack. 3 officers stared down at her, shock flickering across their faces. "You're a child," the woman officer said quietly. Lily nodded, clutching the puppies tighter. The officer crouched down. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "we need to talk about those dogs." Lily's heart dropped like a stone. This was the moment she had feared, the moment everything changed. The officer kneeling in front of Lily softened her expression, but the urgency in her eyes didn't fade. The 2 other officers stepped closer, peering into the house with tense curiosity. The moment they spotted the puppies pressed against Lily's legs, their faces changed. Not with relief, not with confusion, with recognition. The tallest officer, a broad-shouldered man with a trimmed beard, froze mid-step. His eyes widened, and he shot a glance at the woman beside him. "It's them," he muttered under his breath. The woman officer's jaw tightened. She nodded once, sharp, certain. Lily swallowed hard. What do you mean?" she whispered. The bearded officer crouched slightly, trying to look less intimidating. But the way he kept staring at the puppies made Lily's heart squeeze tighter. He spoke slowly, carefully, as though choosing each word. "Sweetheart, where did you find those dogs?" Lily hesitated. Her fingers curled into the puppy's fur protectively. "Last night, near the old cabin by the woods." At those words, all 3 officers exchanged looks again. Quick, alarmed, meaningful. The woman officer stood abruptly and signaled toward the 2 patrol cars behind her. "Call it in," she ordered. "Tell them we found the units. Confirm visual." Another officer grabbed his radio immediately. "Copy. 2 pups located. Secure location. Awaiting further instructions." His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly. Lily's stomach twisted in fear. "Units? What does that mean? Why are you talking like that? They're just puppies." The bearded officer lowered his gaze, letting out a breath. "They're not ordinary puppies, Lily." The smaller puppy whimpered, pressing closer against her leg. The other stood tall, placing itself between her and the officers, tiny chest puffed out as if guarding her. The officer cleared his throat. "We're not here to take them away from you to be mean. We just need to make sure they're safe." Safe? The word didn't comfort Lily at all. The woman officer returned her attention to Lily, her voice gentler now. "Those collars they're wearing? Do you still have them?" Lily nodded stiffly. She walked backward toward her bedroom, the puppies following her every step. She picked up the strange metal tags from her nightstand and held them out with trembling hands. The officer's reaction was instant. The bearded officer inhaled sharply. The woman's eyes went wide. The 3rd officer whispered, "It really is them." Lily clutched the tags back to her chest, panicking. "Please don't take them," she cried. "I saved them. They're mine now." The woman officer knelt again. "Honey, these puppies were part of an active investigation. They went missing 2 days ago. We've been searching for them non-stop." Lily's breath caught. Missing, wanted, investigated? What kind of puppies had she brought into her home? And why were the police so afraid? The morning light crept slowly across the snow-covered yard, but nothing about the scene inside Lily's home felt calm. The officers stood in the entryway, their breaths visible in the cold draft, their eyes fixed on the puppies as if the little creatures were far more dangerous, or important, than Lily could ever imagine. The bearded officer took a steadying breath. "Lily," he began, "the puppies you found weren't abandoned by accident." Lily hugged them tighter. "But they were freezing. Someone left them." The woman officer stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Someone didn't leave them. Someone lost them, and they've been looking for them ever since." The words sent a chill through Lily's chest. "Who? Why?" The officers exchanged another tense glance before the woman continued. "These puppies came from a criminal trafficking operation. We've been investigating it for months. Those collars," she nodded toward the tags in Lily's trembling hands, "are markers used by the group to identify animals they illegally transport across states." Lily's heart dropped. "Illegal? But they're just babies." The bearded officer sighed. "That's exactly why. Puppies like these sell for a lot of money, especially trained breeds." Lily blinked. "Trained? But they're too small to learn anything." He shook his head. "Not these ones. They were born in a facility where dogs are bred specifically, for black market buyers. People who want aggressive, obedient animals. They start training them almost immediately." Lily looked down at the pups. They stared back at her with wide, loyal eyes. Nothing aggressive about them at all. "They're not bad," she whispered. "They're sweet." The smallest officer nodded gently. "We know, and that's why this is complicated." Lily's throat tightened. "Complicated how?" The woman crouched down until she was eye level with Lily. "The people who lost these puppies," her voice lowered, turning grave, "they're dangerous, very dangerous, and they don't let things go easily. When their animals went missing, they sent people out in the storm to track them." Lily felt the room spin. "Track them?" "That's why we came," the officer said. "We intercepted communications this morning. Someone reported seeing footprints near the old cabin. We followed the trail here." Lily's eyes widened in horror. "The men with flashlights. The shadows outside my window." "They were looking for these two," the officer confirmed, "and they weren't going to stop." The puppies whimpered softly, sensing Lily's fear. She wrapped her arms around them protectively. "But they're safe now," she insisted. "Right? You'll protect them." All three officers hesitated. The silence felt louder than the storm ever had. The woman officer finally spoke, but the tremor in her voice told Lily the truth before the words even came. "We'll try, Lily. But those men, they won't give up so easily." The living room felt smaller by the second, the walls closing in as the officers exchanged hushed whispers. Lily stood in the center, clutching the two puppies, their warm little bodies pressed tightly against her chest. Her heart hammered hard enough to hurt. Every instinct inside her screamed that something terrible was coming. The woman officer finally stepped forward. She knelt. Carefully, her expression soft but weighted with responsibility. "Lily," she began gently, "we need to take the puppies with us." The words slammed into Lily like a punch. "No," she cried, instantly hugging them tighter. "They're mine. I saved them." The puppies whimpered at her trembling voice, curling into her arms even more. The bearded officer let out a slow breath. "Sweetheart, we're not taking them to be mean. We need to get them somewhere safe, somewhere protected." "They are safe," Lily snapped. "With me." The woman officer reached out carefully, but Lily stepped back fast, almost stumbling. Fear, pure and sharp, filled her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "They'll be scared without me." The smallest officer rubbed the back of his neck, conflicted. "Lily, those men out there, they're dangerous. They won't stop looking. If they find them here, they won't," she shouted, tears spilling over. "I'll hide them. I'll protect them." Her voice cracked, and the puppies lifted their heads, sensing her fear. They pressed their tiny snouts against her neck, whimpering softly, comforting her, like they understood everything, like they chose her. The woman officer swallowed hard, her eyes glistening. I believe you would protect them, she said softly. But you're just a little girl. You shouldn't have to fight criminals. Lily shook her head fiercely. But they found me. They came to my window. They came last night. If you take them, they'll follow you. They'll take them back. You said it yourself. They don't stop. The officers fell silent, because deep down, they knew Lily wasn't wrong. The bearded officer finally stepped closer. His voice was gentle, but steady. Lily, listen to me. We're trained to deal with people like them. You're brave, braver than most grown-ups I know. But this is bigger than you. No, Lily whispered, wiping her tears. They're not going anywhere. Her small body straightened, her chin lifted. The puppies matched her posture, one standing tall, the other growling softly at the officers. Loyalty radiated from all three. Lily took a deep breath, voice trembling but firm. If you try to take them, I won't let you. The officers stared at her, not angry, not frustrated, but stunned, because in that moment, Lily wasn't just a frightened little girl. She was their guardian, and she was willing to fight for them. The officers were still reeling from Lily's refusal when a sudden crack echoed outside, sharp, loud, unmistakable. All three officers snapped to attention. The bearded one grabbed his radio, the woman officer pressed a hand to her holster, and the smallest officer stepped toward the doorway. Lily froze. The puppies stiffened instantly, their ears shooting up, growls rumbling low in their chests. Another crack. Then a muffled shout. The woman officer moved quickly to the window, pulling the curtain back just an inch. Her face went pale. "They're here," she whispered. Lily's blood ran cold. "Who?" she choked out. The bearded officer's voice was grim. "The men looking for the puppies." Before Lily could respond, a dark figure stepped into view outside, broad-shouldered, wearing a black coat dusted with snow. His boots crunched quietly as he scanned the yard. Another man followed him, carrying something long wrapped in cloth. A third lingered near the road, shifting back and forth like he was guarding the perimeter. The puppies let out warning barks, tiny but fierce, their bodies tight with instinct. The woman officer knelt beside Lily urgently. "Sweetheart, listen to me. You need to take the puppies and hide. Do you understand? Somewhere small, somewhere safe. Now." Lily hesitated. "But no time," the officer said sharply. "Go." The urgency in her voice sent Lily sprinting down the hallway, the puppies racing beside her. She darted into the coat closet, squeezing inside and shutting the door just as heavy footsteps approached the front porch. Through the slats, she saw the officers move into position. A loud pounding rattled the house. "Open the door!" a man barked. His voice was deep, cold, practiced in intimidation. "We know you have them." The woman officer raised her voice calmly. "This is the police. Step away from the property." A beat of silence. Then, a sinister laugh. "Those aren't yours." The bearded officer stepped forward, hand firmly on his gun. "This is an active crime scene. Leave now." The porch creaked as the man stepped closer. "We don't leave without what's ours." The smallest officer reached for his radio, whispering urgently, requesting immediate backup. Multiple armed suspects. Glass shattered. A rock flew through the side window, scattering shards across the floor. Lily gasped silently, covering her mouth with trembling fingers. The puppies pressed against her, their bodies shaking but their eyes sharp. The criminals advanced. The officers drew their weapons. The man with the wrapped object pulled the cloth away, revealing something metallic beneath. The woman officer shouted, "Get back!" A blinding flash lit the living room as a stun charge detonated against the porch railing, sending sparks and smoke across the snow. The criminals started forward. The officers stood their ground. And Lily, hiding in the dark closet with the puppies tucked close to her chest, felt the truth in her bones. This wasn't about rescuing animals anymore. This was a battle, and it had only just begun. Inside the cramped coat closet, Lily could barely breathe. The thundering noise outside, the shouts, the crashes, the heavy boots pounding across the snow, made her heart slam violently against her ribs. She clutched the puppies close, trembling as she whispered, "Please, please be okay. Please." But the puppies weren't shaking. They weren't hiding. They were waiting. Their ears twitched with every sound, their tiny chests rising and falling in steady, controlled breaths. When another loud bang echoed through the living room, both pups suddenly pushed away from her, turning toward the door with laser-like focus. "No," Lily whispered urgently, trying to pull them back. "They'll hurt you." But they didn't listen. They were no longer acting like scared babies. They were acting like something else entirely. The moment the criminal's footsteps grew louder, approaching the hallway, the puppies tensed, lowered their bodies, and positioned themselves exactly the same way Lily had seen on K9 videos her father used to show her. Their bodies were low, their eyes locked ahead. They moved in perfect sync, trained, prepared, dangerously aware. The closet door shook as someone passed by outside. Lily covered her mouth to keep from gasping. The smallest puppy stepped in front of her, planting itself like a living shield. The other pup pressed its ear to the narrow crack in the door, listening intently. Then, a voice, rough, close. "I know they're in here somewhere. Find them." A heavy boot kicked the hallway wall. The man moved closer. The puppies glanced at each other, and in complete silence they nodded. They nodded. Lily's breath stopped. Before she could react, the larger puppy leapt up and pressed its body against the closet door. The tiniest pressure. Then the latch clicked open. "No, don't," Lily tried to whisper, but it was too late. The door slid open just an inch. Just enough. The hallway was dim, smoke from the stun charge drifting through the air. One of the criminals advanced slowly, scanning the floor with sharp eyes. "They couldn't have gotten far," he muttered. "Little brats can't even walk right." The puppy launched. A blur of fur and instinct, it shot out of the closet and lunged straight for the man's wrist, biting down with shocking precision. The man yelled, stumbling backward as the second puppy charged at his ankle, attacking with the same synchronized force. The man crashed into the wall, cursing wildly as he tried to shake them off. The officers in the living room spun around at the noise. The bearded officer's eyes widened. "They're trained!" The tide shifted instantly. The officers regained control. The criminals lost focus. And for the first time since the chaos began, Lily felt something new wash over her. Hope. Chaos erupted the instant the puppies attacked. The criminal's shout tore through the hallway, echoing off the walls like an alarm. The officers spun toward the sound, weapons raised, but the smoke and flashing lights made it hard to see clearly. The man stumbled backward, slamming into a side table as the puppies held fast, tiny jaws clamped with astonishing force. "Get them off me," he bellowed. But the puppies were relentless. The bearded officer lunged forward, trying to free Lily's attackers from the danger. "Hold still," he barked, grabbing the man's arm to steady him. "They're helping us." The man swung wildly, nearly hitting the officer, his face twisted with rage. "They're mine," he snarled. "You don't know what they're worth." Before the officer could respond, another criminal burst through the front door, the stun-charged smoke curling around his boots. He lifted a metal rod, some weapon fashioned for intimidation, and charged forward. The woman officer reacted first. "Drop it," she shouted. The man didn't listen. She fired a warning shot into the floor. The sound cracked through the air like lightning. Lily, still in the hallway, covered her ears, trembling. The puppies released their bites and retreated just as the smallest officer reached them, scooping Lily into his arms and pulling her behind him. "It's okay," he whispered urgently. "Stay behind me. Don't move." But Lily couldn't look away. Her puppies, her brave, impossible puppies, stood their ground again, positioning themselves between the officers and the criminals as if this was what they were born to do. The second criminal lunged again, swinging his weapon. The woman officer dodged and struck back with swift precision, knocking the rod from his hand. It clattered across the floor, spinning to a stop near the fireplace. "Stay down," she commanded. But he didn't. Not willingly. The larger puppy sprinted forward, teeth bared in a fearless snarl. It leapt, grabbing the man's pant leg and pulling with surprising strength. The woman officer seized the opening, tackling the man to the ground and pinning his arms behind him. The third criminal at the doorway froze at the sight. For a moment he hesitated, long enough for the bearded officer to lift his weapon and shout, "Police! Don't move!" But instead of surrendering, the man bolted into the snow, disappearing, behind the parked cruiser. Backup sirens approached in the distance, growing louder and louder. The smallest officer exhaled sharply. Finally. Within seconds, 2 more patrol cars slid into the driveway, officers leaping out with rifles raised. They surrounded the property, scanning for threats. The third criminal was quickly located and tackled into the snow. Inside, the bearded officer knelt, gently scooping up the barking puppies. For the first time since dawn, relief flickered across his face. "You too are unbelievable," he murmured. Lily ran to them, tears spilling as the puppies wriggled into her arms. The danger was finally under control. But the truth behind these extraordinary puppies, that was still waiting to be revealed. The house was finally quiet again, broken glass glittering on the floor, smoke dissipating into the cold morning air, and officers moving carefully as they secured the scene. Lily sat on the sofa, clutching both puppies tightly against her chest. Their fur was warm now, alive with energy and instinct, but they leaned into her, sensing she needed comfort more than ever. The bearded officer returned from outside, his expression serious but no longer clouded with fear. He sat down across from her, removing his gloves slowly, as though preparing himself for a difficult truth. "Lily," he said softly, "there's something you need to know." Lily stiffened. The puppies lifted their heads, ears perked. The woman officer joined him. "We didn't tell you everything earlier, not because we wanted to lie to you, but because we weren't sure if it was true." Lily swallowed. "What do you mean?" The bearded officer reached for one of the metal tags Lily had set on the coffee table. He held it up toward the sunlight streaming through the broken window. The strange engraved symbol glinted sharply. "This mark," he said, "isn't just a tracking symbol used by criminals." Lily blinked. "It's not." He shook his head. "It's a copy, a fake version of a real tag." The woman officer continued gently. "The criminals didn't breed these puppies. They stole them." Lily's eyes widened. "They were taken 3 days ago," she said quietly, "from a protected police training facility." Lily gasped. "Police? You mean they're K9 puppies?" "Not ordinary ones," the bearded officer replied. "These 2 are from a classified program. Only a handful of dogs are chosen every year. They're bred for intelligence, loyalty, and heightened instincts. What you saw today, how they coordinated, how they protected you," he shook his head, still amazed. "Most dogs don't learn that level of behavior until they're a year old. These 2 were born different." The smaller puppy nuzzled Lily's chin, whimpering softly as if apologizing for the chaos surrounding them. Lily hugged them tighter. "So, they're special," she whispered. "Very special," the woman officer said. "And extremely valuable. That's why the criminals wanted them. They knew exactly what these pups would be worth when trained." Lily looked down at the puppies. They gazed back up at her with innocent, trusting eyes. Just babies who wanted warmth, safety, and love. Her voice trembled. "But they came to me." The bearded officer nodded. "Because they felt safe with you. You saved them, and they responded the only way they knew how, by protecting you in return." Lily lowered her head, tears filling her eyes. Not from fear this time, but from the overwhelming truth. The puppies weren't just survivors, they were heroes, and they had chosen her. Lily sat quietly on the sofa, the puppies curled on her lap like two warm, breathing bundles of courage. Officers moved around the house gathering evidence, documenting damage, and escorting the arrested criminals out in handcuffs. Snow continued to fall outside, gentle now, almost peaceful, as if the storm itself had calmed after seeing the danger pass. But inside Lily's heart, a different storm raged. She looked at the woman officer with wide, pleading eyes. "You're going to take them, aren't you?" The question broke the silence. The woman officer paused, her expression softening. She exchanged a long look with the bearded officer, a look full of things Lily didn't understand. Duty, concern, conflict. The bearded officer rubbed his temples, sighing heavily. Lily. Normally, yes. These puppies belong to a classified police program. We're supposed to return them immediately. Lily's throat closed. She wrapped her arms protectively around the puppies. "But they won't be happy without me," she whispered. "They're scared. They need someone who loves them." The puppies pressed closer, as if agreeing. The smallest officer walked in, holding a report. "HQ wants them transported by noon," he said quietly. "Standard protocol." Lily's heart shattered. "No, please don't take them," she begged, tears rushing to her eyes. "They chose me. They came to my house. They protected me. Doesn't that matter?" Her voice echoed, mixing with the soft crackling of the fireplace. Everyone fell silent. The bearded officer crouched to Lily's eye level. "You're right," he admitted softly. "It does matter, a lot. Dogs, especially K9s, don't bond easily. And for two puppies to bond instantly? That's rare, almost unheard of." Lily sniffled. "So, what happens now?" The woman officer folded her arms, looking conflicted. "Technically, the program could claim custody. But after what these puppies went through, after what you went through—" She glanced around at the shattered glass, the broken door frame, the chaos left behind. "Taking them away from the one person who actually protected them feels wrong." The smallest officer nodded. "HQ won't like it, but exceptions have been made before." The bearded officer stared thoughtfully at the puppies, a long, thoughtful silence, then exhaled deeply, as if making a life-changing decision. "Lily," he said gently, "how would you feel about becoming an official guardian?" Lily blinked. "A what?" The woman officer smiled. "Soft, warm, real. A temporary K9 caretaker. You'd keep them here, love them, raise them, and we'd work with you to make sure they're safe, trained, and protected." Lily's breath stopped. "Does that mean they stay?" she whispered. The bearded officer smiled faintly. "If we file the right paperwork, yes, they stay." The puppies barked softly, happy, relieved as though they understood every word. Lily burst into tears, hugging them both. "Yes, I'll take care of them. I promise. I'll do anything." The officers watched her, warmth filling their expressions. That single decision, made in the aftermath of danger, would change Lily's life forever. Because she wasn't just keeping two puppies. She was becoming part of their destiny. Snow sparkled across the front yard like diamonds scattered over a blanket of white. The storm had finally passed, leaving a quiet stillness that felt almost magical. Officers finished packing equipment into their vehicles, speaking softly into radios as the last of the danger faded from the morning air. The criminals were gone. The house was secure, and inside Lily sat on the living room rug, holding the two puppies who had turned her world upside down. The bearded officer returned with a clipboard tucked beneath his arm. His boots thudded softly against the wooden floor as he approached her. The puppies lifted their heads immediately, ears twitching with curiosity. He crouched down and offered Lily a warm, almost fatherly smile. "Well, Lily, it's official." She blinked. What is? He set the clipboard gently beside her. You've been approved as a temporary K-9 guardian, effective immediately. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, lips parted, hands frozen mid-pet. You mean? The woman officer stepped forward, her eyes bright with emotion. Yes, sweetheart. The puppies stay with you. You'll care for them, help them grow, and when they're old enough for real training, the program will evaluate what's best for them. But until then... She smiled tenderly. You're their family. Lily gasped, tears welling in her eyes once more. Not from fear, not from worry, but from pure overflowing joy. She wrapped her arms around both puppies, hugging them so tightly their tails wagged wildly. I'll take the best care of them, she whispered. I promise forever. The smallest officer chuckled as he handed her 2 tiny, freshly made ID tags. These are their temporary badges, he said proudly. Every K-9 in training gets 1, and now, so do they. The puppies sniffed the badges, tails wagging harder. Lily traced the engraved names with her fingertip. Scout, she whispered, looking at the braver pup. And Shadow, she said softly, touching the quieter one who always stayed closest to her. The names fit perfectly. The officers exchanged smiles, touched by the sight of the little girl and her unlikely heroes. The bearded officer sighed, standing slowly. You know, Lily, today could have ended very differently. But because of you, they survived. And because of them. He nodded toward the door, where crime scene techs were photographing the captured criminals' gear. We were able to catch a group we've been chasing for months. Lily looked down at Scout and Shadow. They saved me, too. The woman officer knelt once more, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's cheek. These puppies were born into danger, but with you, they finally have a chance to become who they were meant to be. Lily smiled softly. Heroes? The officer's eyes warmed. Exactly. Outside, the backup officers began to leave. Engines hummed. Doors shut. The yard slowly emptied until only the original 3 officers remained. The woman officer placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. We'll visit often, she promised. Training check-ins, safety reviews, and just to make sure you're doing okay. Lily nodded eagerly. I'll do everything right. I swear. Shadow nudged her cheek with a soft whine. Scout pawed at her knee, eager to play again now that the danger was gone. As the officers headed toward the door, Lily called out, Thank you for letting them stay. The bearded officer paused, smiling. No, Lily, thank you. Without you, they wouldn't be here at all. The door closed gently behind him. Lily looked at her puppies, her family now, and wrapped them in her arms. Outside, the morning sun rose over the snow-covered world. Inside, a little girl and 2 extraordinary pups began a new chapter together. One filled with hope, bravery, and a future no one could have predicted. This story teaches us that true courage doesn't depend on age or strength. It comes from compassion. Lily's kindness toward 2 helpless puppies saved their lives and uncovered a dangerous crime. She showed that doing the right thing, even when it's difficult or frightening, can make a powerful difference. The puppies proved that loyalty and bravery can come in the smallest forms. Together, they remind us that every act of kindness creates ripples of hope. When we protect the vulnerable, stand up for what's right, and refuse to give up on others, we help make the world a safer and better place.